We ask for guidance from the universal spirit creator, our angels and our spirit guides, to move from soul to subconscious, from subconscious to conscious being, to higher self. We request protected conduit to the realm of the highest good, aligned only to light, so that we may raise our frequencies for the good of all beings, and so that we may step back to see and to be. We do request 100% connection to source and 100% gold cord connection at heart chakra. With thanks, humility, grace, and love, so mote it be. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Infinite Dance. So glad you're here with me on this really rainy day. Thank goodness we have had rain all day since I've been up here in Reno, Nevada. And as you know, we had the terrible hawk fires and a bunch of other fires that have been happening over the past week and a half. So this is so incredibly welcome. And I hope it will help keep everything not in flames, because if you've ever experienced fire, large amounts of fire taking down structures, it is very, very scary. And I don't wish that upon anybody at all. And I know there was a lot of things happening in our town. Um, if you're not familiar, so Reno, Nevada is about, oh God, an hour and a half, I think, outside Black Rock City, where Burning Man takes place every year. And a lot of people that go to Burning Man either drive through Reno or come in through a plane to our Reno Tahoe International Airport. So there was a lot of concern about hotels and supplies and all that. So it seems like a lot of folks that had somewhere to go back to have gone back to their homes now. And it's unfortunate that those that didn't, that their houses burned down. So as we go ahead and take that moment of silence, let's add in all those that are affected by the fires, all those that are affected by the floods in Nepal, and of course all those that are oppressed ongoing in Palestine, Sudan, Congo, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, anybody that is facing oppression. We're going to take a moment of silence and send them any extra goodness we have to help uplift and give hope. Thank you so much for taking that time to give awareness to those that are less fortunate right now and don't have basic needs met. So, as before I get into the Akashic messages for September and the cosmos, which again, we're doing just a really tiny um, mention of the cosmos, because number one, I'm not an astrologer. But of course, we're affected by all these things, and I have a clue and tap in, right? But I want to get into the messages more too and what's going on there. But so before we get into all of that, a couple of things. And again, I have episodes coming out in September that will address more of these things. But, I've had people ask me, do you think the fires were on purpose? Well, we know they were human started. So whether they were on purpose or not, energetically, it seems like it was along with or going along with the narrative of these data centers that are trying to be in Reno. A lot of them have been shut down or stalled, but I know there's a lot of push. And I happened to come across one in at work, and the energy was so icky on this man, just lower frequencies. The way he spoke to me, the things he asked me were just really inappropriate for our context, of massage therapists and somebody getting a massage. Um, so it feels very deliberate, and this particular um, client had come in all the way from India, and the company he was working for has a data center here, and their main headquarters are in Georgia. I'm not sure what town in Georgia, but their main headquarters are there. So that really hit close to home to have that. I actually even made a post on Facebook, which I never do. I never post about my client experiences in a public place, but this again is one of those things, and I'm going to talk about that a lot. And these Akashic messages for September is taking action, right? For these things that we are aware of and we see like this shouldn't probably happen. This doesn't need to happen. Data centers, right? So how do we take the action and not sit in the fear and not sit in the anger and not sit in these places that are going to keep us stuck, right? So to me, speaking up about an experience with somebody around this is very, very important. And I encourage you to do that too. I got a backlash, of course. There's always somebody that's going to backlash you about stuff like this. But overall, we have up until this point, right? 2026, August 2026, we have been told certain narratives that we've lived by. And one of those is to not share the trauma that you're going through because, oh, it's not nice to talk about, other people. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, that hasn't served any of us at all. And we've held our trauma in. And of course, our trauma is going to usually be involving somebody else. We're here on earth with each other. So there's no way that is such a limiting phrase and gives you no where to go, right? But internal. And where does internal stuff go? It goes into our physical being somewhere, right? Because energetically, if we're going and doing that loop, that mental loop of the story just looping around, it's going to have nowhere else to go but into your physical being, the densest part of us. So think about that, taking action and what that looks like to you. And I will get into that more with the Akashic messages because that came through really, really, really clearly when I was channeling these messages. And then the man yesterday, or my last episode about the Akashic messages for the lunar eclipse, I was talking about the deaths of Dolly Parton, Tim Curry, and Yayoi Kusama. And I said there was a fourth. Peter Cullen is his name. He voiced the Transformers. One of the Transformers. I'm forgetting which one. But he passed too. And these all passed within a day of each other. Okay, so this is two of them passed, I think, on the same day, Tim and Dolly. And the other two, I think, was either the day after. I know Yayoi did. I can't remember exactly when Peter, but the reason we're taking note of this is there's more happening. It's not just the threes, right? It's more. And I'll get more into that, into soul families and why these folks passed away at the same time. Okay, so I will channel some of that too coming up. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get into themes of the month of September with the Akashic messages coming through, the archangels coming through to help, and the galactic families that are also coming through to help. But the major themes for this month of September is an organized grounding. right? We're in Virgo season, and then we'll get into Libra season. But Virgo carries the earth energy. Anybody you know that's Virgo is usually doing something to their body to check in, right? It's very this dimension, this um, very aware of their being within everything else that's going on. And we can learn a lot from that, right? Really kind of embodying everything we're trying to do in this lifetime. So taking all the spiritual and energetic lessons and information coming through and applying that to our physical being. And so Virgo energy really helps us with that. Health routines and improvements that are on the practical side. Okay, so we're not going to go ahead and do like a major renovation, but maybe it's I need to get a different pillows for the couch, or something like that, that feels, because it's going to bring a sense of calm, or I need to move things around so that it's a better flow, right? Those are kind of practical things that we get into these themes with the Virgo energy. Venus in Scorpio is happening this month, and that intensifies our emotional binds and how we interact with shared resources with each other. So think of community food boxes, or sharing a car ride, or things like this, right? How we're going to go about that and define those terms. Thinking before you speak is a huge theme. Mercury in Libra brings a balanced communication. So that's going to help, right? Of, well, what is it that I want to say? Exactly. And I don't know if this is an age thing or a now thing, or maybe a combination thing, but I feel like I have a little bit, like, I want to speak and have it be even clearer than I've ever wanted it before. I don't want to get into the this and the that. Like, okay, hey, like I had to go down to a neighbor and they weren't home, but it was the people who usually live there. It was the mom, one of her grown sons. She's got all grown sons. But he was just visiting. But it was like midnight, and I was listening to music, and I could smell cigarette smoke, like really close, right? And so I went on the balcony. I'm like, God, why am I smelling cigarette smoke? This isn't okay. And I thought, I'm going to go down. I'm going to go downstairs to see if I could see. And sure enough, he was on the patio, and he was like talking, blah, 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 about this. And, oh, my mom said I could smoke, and blah, blah, blah. It's okay. And I said, listen, buddy, it's a no smoking property. Just, go into the parking lot so I don't smell it directly in my apartment. Like, I don't care if I smell it in the air outside. But, like, I didn't want to get into a conversation with him about it. Like, I just wanted to be like, hey, stop doing it. There wasn't a lot of space for that. Plus it was midnight. It was late. And that's late for me. I've been staying up later lately. Well, kind of rolling with it. Yeah, rolling with that. Other theme, the full moon will be in Aries and Mars will be in Leo. This is during the month of September, which helps us take that action needed for the transformations we desire. So this is really important. We are all noticing things aren't how we like them to be. Okay, whether it's the genocide in Gaza, whether it's these data centers going up, whether it's something at work, even something more personal, something not so global. And if you keep doing things the same way, they're not going to change. If you're just aware of them and you don't take any action, how do you expect any change to happen? Right? You have to take some steps. You have to take some kind of action. What does that look like? We'll be able to make more decisive movements from our authentic place. So we're going to be able to tap into with the energies of the full moon in Aries and Mars in Leo, our authentic how exactly do we want that to be? How do we want to feel around it? And we'll definitely get some creative bursts with all of that energy too, to help with that. Right. And I know a lot of times when I get in a creative space, I can become a little clearer on a certain subject. But taking action is very, very important. Again, that's a huge theme. I know it's a huge theme this year with the fire horse energy, and it is an even bigger theme. Well, it'll be compounded with the energies we have in September of this year. And, having the groundedness in the beginning of the month with the Virgo energy is really, really nice as we try to take, these action steps that will help in whatever we're trying to do. And I'll get more into those with the Akashic messages. So, just a quick, brief talk about the cosmos for September. So on the 1st of September, Mars is in Cancer, and that squares Saturn in Aries. So we're going to start off with a little bit of tension at the beginning of September. Dynamic tension, right? Where can this go? And this is going to be around emotional protection and assertive drive versus discipline and independence. So that'll be interesting how that will play out at the beginning of the month. On the 10th of September, Venus enters Scorpio. So lots happening on the 10th of September. It's a pivotal day with the cosmos. Venus enters Scorpio, and that's deepening our relationships and emotional intensity, like I was talking about in the beginning with the main theme. Mercury enters Libra, and that's aligned and balanced communication. So when I think of aligned communication, I'm thinking it's however you're speaking, it's being heard, it's being received well. Now, and then, the new moon in Virgo is going to give us fresh starts, fueled by practical plans. So again, we'll have a list of how we're going to go about what's happening. Uranus is retrograde in Gemini, also on the 10th of September. So we'll begin to feel these shifts internally, these shifts internally, which will be from all the work that we've done, right? I mean, if you're breathing, you're doing some kind of work right now, whether it's extremely intentional or not as intentional, every day, but there's work that everyone's been doing. On the 22nd and 23rd, that's when Libra season starts. So we're going to bring on harmony, fairness, and cooperation with that Libra energy. And on the 26th of September, it's a full moon in Aries. Here comes a chance to act again with clarity around the decisions you make, independent of others' input. And on the 27th of September, Mars enters Leo, a huge boost of confidence here to get creative romantically. How do you express yourself to a partner or potential partner? So Mars entering Leo at the end of the month. I'm hoping this month coming up we'll get a little reprieve. And of course, on the 20th, we have this fall equinox. Okay. So bringing on fall, bringing on longer, the days are starting to get shorter and the air is starting to get cooler. Okay. That's fall equinox energy. So Akashic messages for September. We have lots of archangel energy. Raphael's coming in, Metatron and Sandalphon, and they showed me like they're holding things in balance, right? As above, so below, but very, very specific. Pay attention to that. Archangel Ramiel to help us with mercy and compassion for self and for others. And Uriel's coming through still because all of these disasters are happening to the earth. People, with the flooding and the fires. And he's going to help direct those and bring some ease. And I'm hearing messages of why. Okay, so we'll tap into Uriel's energy with more of the, is it human done on purpose or human caused on accident, right? So he's going to help direct those messages. So if you're tapping into those things when you're in meditation. So the first image I got for Akashic messages for September was a big white circle closing around a large group of people. And the meaning, it was a twofold meaning. First, a soul family mass exodus is happening. Certain souls can do more effective work together and in collaboration, not in our skin suits. Okay. So that was the first message of that image. The second one is where we are better together. All of these fires, floods, traumas, they can bring more people together in common ground. Oh my God, you need a place to stay. Do you need a jacket? Do you need food? These are ways we start to really come together and show that human solidarity of we got each other and we can do this. So that was the first message. Again, twofold. We're seeing mass exodus of souls and soul family. And then we're given these opportunities to come together, right? And I found it really interesting. I'm just going to say this here in Reno. And I was talking to you guys about Burning Man and how it's nearby, right? So people stop through here, whether they're flying in, driving in, getting supplies, etc. And a lot of the forums for Reno and or Burning Man, people were cautioning, hey, please don't try to stay here because a lot of people that are displaced are staying in hotels and there's not even enough. So many are staying in their cars in parking lots with their animals and children and whatnot. And there was a lot of people that were like, oh yeah, we've got to really rally around being a little more autonomous with our supplies and coming prepared before we come through. And there was a little bit of pushback of, we're just going to do this. We're just going to continue like nothing happened. And that one wasn't as loud, but it was definitely there. And, surprising from a couple of people I did hear that from, like, oh, we really need this outlet, okay. Right. Art and getting together is so needed, right? Huge fan of all of that. But this particular festival or gathering is all about burning things, in the desert, which we've had things burn and it's been devastating. So it's like how do you not go, oh yeah, these people, how do we, it's almost like, adding salt to a wound, um, to continue and be like, well, okay, show must go on. That's the old energy. That's the old mentality of, I got to keep going no matter what, right? We just got to keep going. So what that there's a fire, so what that there's a flood, I'm just got to keep going and doing my mission. No, that's where we've come from. And that doesn't serve all, right? Especially when there's trauma. We're not talking about, oh yeah, it's a little short staffed or something like that. No, it's massive trauma, and our whole town is traumatized right now as everybody was affected by the current group of fires. We had the bug fire before the hawk fire, and then there's a bunch of little ones. So we've all been traumatized. So I thought that was interesting. Anyways, but coming together absolutely is a huge theme. The second image I got for the Akashic messages for September was a person holding a sign, and they're like bent down, right? So they have a sign in their hand, like and they came back up with the sign facing forward, kind of like a protest sign, right? That you would stick nail to a post or staple to a post. So the meaning of this one is we must put our fears, anger, etc. into action. It's great to be aware. First step, right? First step, I'm aware of this. I see it. This makes me, and then once you see it, you're going to define how it's making you feel. I'm pissed. I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm all these things. And it's good to define that. And then you must take an action in this life dimension, right? From the awareness. It's not enough to just be like, oh, I see it, but I'm going to step back. That's a part of the bypassing. That's a part of the bypassing that, oh, I've got too much going on in my life. We all have a lot going on in our lives. Every single person has a health thing, a personal thing, a work thing, something that you're dealing with on top of all the things that are happening to all of us. So we must take an action step, and that can look different for everybody. Okay. It could look like boycotting. It could look like protesting. It could look like volunteering. It could look like making calls to your representatives, right? So it doesn't have to be one way. It doesn't mean you have to sit there and scream and yell on social media, right? Because we only know that goes so far. And it's finding the groups where you can have these healthy conversations. I recently started listening to more podcasts of people that I hadn't listened to in the past. And maybe all of their ideals aren't along the same as mine, but I want to learn, right? And I want to understand things that don't come naturally to me. So I'm putting myself in that place. And this is how we transmute these energies out without bypassing them. Again, we don't want to just be like, oh, yeah, that's over there, so we'll just let that group of people deal with it because they're over there. When we know it all affects all of us. And you talked at length, and you can go back to other episodes where I talk at length on places like Palestine, right? And how Israel needs to be stopped. And for me, it's taking action with boycotting, spending my money in places where I know it'll be more beneficial as opposed to harmful. So that's how I'm taking action. I do share posts still, but again, I try to find forums and groups, and I found more on Substack, as I've talked about, and YouTube, where I'm having interesting conversations and learning from other people, and vice versa. And that's been, um, that's been so helpful to me, but we got to take some action. So those are your Akashic messages for September. If you'd like a private reading, you can reach me at ancientbodyworks.com. Love to have you on the Facebook page, The Infinite Dance. It's public now. So anybody can get on there and share a meme or share a part of your journey, ask some questions, whatever you would like to do around that. And I am also on Substack as Carrie Arata, my full name. On Sunday, the 20th of September, I'm going to have a fall equinox sound transmission here in Reno, Nevada. I do have limited seating for that. Love to have you join me. And if you aren't in Reno, please reach out because I will offer that on online also. So you can absolutely join. Well, it has been a lot. I don't know about you all, but I am pretty exhausted with everything that's going on. I'm resting a lot and, um, you know, trying to stay aware, take action, keep my frequencies up, and finding a lot of joy. Um, you guys know I like music and sound, so that's been a huge place that I have been hanging out in. And oh, it's been so nice. Not that I don't listen to a lot of music, but I've been um, getting into things that I haven't heard in a while and or delving into some new stuff. So it's been really exciting and that gives me hope and I feel inspired. I feel super, super inspired. So I hope that you get a lot from these messages and continue to peel back the layers of your grounded being and continue to ask yourselves and each other, may I have this dance? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.